All right. Good morning. Good morning. God bless everybody. We are going to watch Ruslan part one of the Candace Owens versus Andrew Wilson debate. Like I told you earlier, well, not earlier, but yesterday when we were watching the Brandon Tatum review. This one's gonna be more relaxed, more more jokes, more laughter. It's gonna be funny because Ruslan is an amazing guy. He makes people laugh while he's talking about some serious stuff. Give me the screen time. Just reading some notes there. But yeah, this one's gonna be a fun one. We'll do part one today, and then part two we'll do tomorrow. So part one today, part two tomorrow. So I'm gonna put, just like last time, I'm gonna put my mic off, and then we're gonna watch it together.
So apparently the photo that Joe Rogan is confused about, Joshua Carr says that it's actually Candace Owens that did the photoshopping. Okay, this is a pretty serious allegation. Shout out to Joshua Carr. He's been doing some good work over there. I enjoy his stuff. Let's check out what he has to say about this. Have you guys been hearing about this? Wait, debate is happening? I'll refresh it.
And you work with them for many years.
Oh, shoot. Okay, here we go. We'll come back to Joshua Carr. All right. I'm going to back it up. Thank you guys for telling me. I appreciate you guys.
Okay, so we're officially live. Candace, Andrew, good to sit down here with you, talking to you guys about the conversation that I think started with you being on Joe Rogan when you said, hey, I'm offering $300,000. And for the audience watching this, you have to know when you see this final product, there's a lot of stuff that happens behind closed doors. It was still communication till midnight. Even some of the stuff this morning, it's like you're trying to sell a company. It's the last 24 hours that the deal doesn't work out, but kudos to the both of you guys that you made it work. The topic of discussion today, how this got prompted is, Andrew, you said there's overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson shot and killed Charlie Kirk. And Candace, your position was he's a patsy. Tyler Robinson is a patsy. So, of course, we'll talk about a lot of different things, but that's kind of how the whole thing got started. For the audience watching, I think this is truly for three different people. Number one is anybody out there that loves Charlie, respects Charlie, his legacy, what he did. We have a lot of love and admiration.
Who do you guys think's heart rate is higher right now?
Admiration for what he did. He changed the lives of many people, young men, young women. You worked with him for many years. You guys were friends. You've said a lot of good things about Charlie, respectful towards him. You guys may have disagreed on some things, but you had a lot of respect for him. The second audience is the folks out there, that's watching this. And so for you, you've been wanting something like this to take place. And kudos for Andrew for coming out and saying, hey, I want to have this conversation, and for Candace to accept it. So you have the ability to say, I agree, I disagree, comment to all the stuff that you're doing online. And if you want to see more of these things, any of the three channels, subscribe to them, The Candace Show, The Crucible. I'm sure some of the people from Crucible are watching as well, and the PBD podcast.
Wait. You're saying she now agrees that he shot Charlie? This is going to be the biggest Mountain Valley fallacy ever. If she's going to affirm that he's the shooter and then say, well, he's really working for the CIA government, that's a big flip-flop on her position.
The more you subscribe to this, the more we're able to deliver these types of conversations to you. And last but not least, it's about the two of you. My goal is to speak as little as possible. 99% of the time will be speaking, and the audience will be able to see it. If I jump in, just so everybody knows on the back end, both have...
Where's Sarah? Huh? Where's Tomato Sarah at? That's who we needed to moderate this thing. Gosh darn it. Thank you for the super chat. Candace Owens, greedy. Candace, greedy Owens just wanted money to do this. You don't need money if you tell the truth. Serve Jesus or money. Pick one. Candace did. Yeah, I mean, she definitely got her bag.
Agreed. In the back, there's three people representing Andrew and three people representing Candace to do fact checking. So at any point, if somebody makes a claim, the other can say, can we fact check this? I can jump in and say, fact check this. Even the folks in the back can say, fact check this. So it is a very fair conversation that we're having here. And so with that being said, kudos to Michael Knowles. Your name was mentioned a lot. You missed out right now. The last 10 minutes, we talked about you. There's a lot of love and respect here mutually from both parties, all three of them here. And then, of course, the great Joe Rogan that started this conversation, and he also volunteered, but it ended up being this format that we have here today. So with that being said, Andrew, your claim is overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk.
Yep.
Opening statements, opening comments.
Okay, we're doing opening
What I mean by
statements.
overwhelming is I just find it very convincing. That's I think that's what most people mean when they say overwhelming evidence.
Okay.
So I have a brief opening statement. On September 10th, 2025, Charlie Kirk was murdered. Many of you already know a lot about the events which occurred after Kirk's death. You remember the ghoulish laughter, celebrations, and madness we saw from leftists all over, from TikTok invasions, debates, posts on social media, destruction of memorials, and things like this. Within weeks of Kirk's death, a cottage industry began to form, peddling various alternative theories on how he died.
Right.
What special interest may have killed him, what nations were involved, and was our own government one of them? Because this was the first nationwide traumatic event in Gen Z's lifetime.
Right.
The demand for answers was severe and palpable. The leading theory from the conspiracy verse is that Israel worked with the United States government to murder Charlie Kirk. Within a day or two of Kirk's death, Ian Carroll claimed that Israel killed Charlie Kirk. And the conspiracy caught on like wildfire. This theory was built on one misleading piece of evidence. That in his final days, on or around September 8th, Charlie sent a text message reading, "Jewish donors play into all the stereotypes. I cannot and will not be bullied like this, leaving me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause." This was sent in the context of a platforming dispute regarding...
Yeah, thank you, guys. If the volume is off, just let me know volumes, and I got you. I'll adjust it, okay? So if anything feels quiet, just let me know.
Tucker Carlson. From this scintilla of misleading information, it was speculated that Israel killed Charlie Kirk because he would have successfully opposed the Iranian war. Now, that's a fun theory, and who doesn't like a good, fun conspiracy theory? I like them. But there is no evidence that Israel actually killed Charlie Kirk. And if Candace has some, I'd like her to actually show it to me. I'm open to suggestions, but to date, there hasn't been any. There is, however, tons of evidence that a leftist killed Charlie Kirk, just as Charlie feared they would. I believe Charlie Kirk, and I have the receipts. No, I didn't have a dream where he came to me and told me that the left killed him. No, he didn't come to me a dream and say, Candace Owens betrayed him. That never happened. In fact, I don't need dreams of any kind because I hold in my possession never before seen messages from Charlie Kirk to the security team on September 9th, 2025.
Oh!
I'm going to share the message with you today, which is the first time this information's ever been publicly revealed. On September 9th, Charlie's security team wrote to him, "Yes, law enforcement has been fully supportive and agreed to a security plan and posture. Tomorrow's event will be covered by both my team and the campus PD. If additional support is required, patrol units will be available. I have 11 on site." Charlie responded with this, "Okay, great. Remind them that they are there for one person's security only, because I'm somewhat worried the left is trying to kill me." That would...
Ooh. That's a... If Charlie is admitting the day of his set, which is, by the way, so sad. I'm not trying to I feel awful because there's a humanity aspect. This dude was fearing for his life that there was going to be someone on the left that killed him, and someone on the left killed him. That says a whole lot. Now, does that disprove that Israel did it? No, it doesn't immediately disprove that. I think that's where the rest of the evidence comes in. But that's a pretty important piece of evidence that has not been revealed yet, is that he believed that it was going to be a leftist that was going to take him out. That's wild.
Was a message sent September 9th. Whatever could he have meant by that? Well, I think he meant exactly what he said.
Right.
That he was worried the left was going to try to kill him. Now, we'll discuss this more later on in the debate, and maybe I have more never before seen evidence that exposes just how wrong and, in my opinion, idiotic many of these conspiracy theories have been. But that's what happens when you rely on what's called the evidence of the gaps.
Yep.
In other words, they don't have evidence. They seem to just make up evidence.
Yep.
And what did they make up?
Yep.
Well, in my opinion, kind of whatever lined the pockets. And I think it's ghoulish to profit off of the death of a good man. But we came here today to debate, and so let's get to it. The debate topic today is, one, my belief that there's overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk, and two, Candace's belief that there's overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson was a patsy and didn't kill Charlie Kirk. In sum, the audience is going to decide who has more evidence supporting their theory.
Right.
My theory is that the state is correct that Tyler Robinson is the killer, at least based on evidence so far. And Candace's theory that Tyler Robinson is not the killer and he's a patsy set up by the feds. To be clear, this is not a question of reasonable doubt. If it was reasonable doubt, and that's all it was, and that's all Candace was proffering, I wouldn't even be here having the debate with her. It's fair to have doubts, because the trial has yet to occur. And the state hasn't even begun to try to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. But Candace makes a more forceful claim. She claims that there's more evidence that Tyler is not guilty of murder and was set up as a patsy than there is for the state's case. And I just think that that's absurd. And she will not be able to demonstrate that in any way. In fact, she has almost no real evidence at all of her theory, whereas my theory is supported by compelling witness testimony, physical evidence, multiple confessions, all of which are independently compelling, but which are even more convincing as each piece of evidence corroborates the others. You'll notice the term overwhelming was included in both theories. This is because Candace demanded I defend my use of that term, which I think is fair, in describing the evidence against Tyler Robinson. She, on the other hand, only wanted to defend her theory as merely viable. That is, until I showed her the clips in which she said she believed the evidence of her theory, that Tyler Robinson's a patsy, was supported by overwhelming evidence. Only then did she agree to defend that position.
Ooh, that's good. So he's saying, I think, what did he say? He said overwhelming, and he says convinced of. Is that what he said earlier? I'm sorry if I forgot to say. So he's saying she didn't even want to debate the debate prompt until he had to put her own words in front of her and say, no, this is what you said. You said is overwhelming evidence that Tyler didn't do it and that he's a patsy and then there's a conspiracy. So he's holding her own. He's holding her to her own claims in her own words, which is a big shout out to Andrew for this.
Which I think is fair. In describing the evidence against Tyler Robinson, she, on the other hand, only wanted to defend her theory as merely viable.
Yeah,
that is until I showed her clips in which she said she believed the evidence of her theory.
That's right.
Tyler Robinson's a patsy was supported by overwhelming evidence. Only then did she agree to defend that position.
Yeah, overwhelming
Regardless,
evidence.
we're both defending the claim. There's overwhelming evidence on our side, so it's worth defining that term. When I say the evidence against Robinson's overwhelming, all I'm saying is that I mean that as of right now, I find it very convincing. I see almost no evidence at all, only speculation on verified claims and suggestions of things that could merely be hypothetically possible. Dreams, vibes, feelings, things like this. Almost done, by the way. I have no problem defending the state's case and welcome Candace bringing up any challenges she would like. But if I'm honest, the reason I was willing to pay the $300,000 for this debate was to finally have a chance for someone to demand Candace be held accountable for the unbelievable theories and claims she's been making. Candace's investigation is indistinguishable from a leftist operation. She couldn't be doing more damage to the right if she were trying. She uses her considerable platform to relentlessly attack one of the most influential conservative outreach organizations for young people. She's making a mockery of the online right-wing commentary class.
Yeah, it wouldn't be just her saying, I don't know about this, I'm not convinced, versus going after Turning Point, which regardless on different disagreements you may or may not have with Turning Point, like they are doing good work. They have done good work, at the very least, to bring more balance to college campuses with regards to the left-wing insanity. So he's right.
She's harming Republicans in an election year by dividing them. She's attacking the very organization Charlie spent his life building.
Yep.
And she's attacking the people he loved, including his wife. And it cost me $300,000. But today, I hope that she finally answers for something.
Come on.
Thank you, Andrew. Candace?
Did you get it out of your system?
I did.
Okay, great. Well, I'm not going to waste time with a preamble because I think I just want to get to the substance of the debate, and I will just speak to the audience. I've obviously had an audience since we've been covering this case. People know that there was a personal friendship between me and Charlie, and diminishing the pursuit of something that makes sense regarding what happened on September 10th by throwing it to, this is just people who are conspiracy theorists. These are people who are just trying to generate clicks. I don't think that people should be satisfied by that. I want people to remember that it's important to think. We've been lied to by the government a great many times over, just the last couple of years, if you just think of the things that we've learned about our government. And I do want to say this, what's been the most disturbing element, I think, for everyone is that not only does the narrative not make any sense, which I'm going to demonstrate, I don't need to waste time with a preamble going through the points or trying to insult you or pretending that I've been running a podcast saying it's just dreams and vibes, like I'm Miss Cleo. And that's the reason why it's taking so many influencers. It looks like $1 billion industry of influencers to dispute everything Candace says. It's not because I'm on my platform saying I had a dream last night.
She literally was on her platform saying I had a dream last night. Oh man, let's get to the meat. We don't care. Get to your points. Lay out your arguments, Candace.
I think that diminishes you as an argument. Obviously, we have presented a lot of evidence. You just presented a text message and said this is evidence. That's how this entire thing began. You're talking about how.
Oh gosh, now we're gonna get to what is the definition of evidence.
Israel got into the conversation. It was because immediately after Charlie died, one of the first things we saw was this push to make us all think and remember how much he loved Israel. It's because the prime minister of Israel, who's fighting like a 27 front war, felt that he needed to come do a little mini tour and to be, strangely, to state that I did not kill Charlie Kirk, when nobody was having that thought that I can remember. Nobody.
What? Ian Carroll, like the day or two afterwards, stated that Israel was behind it. What are you talking about?
Was going, I wonder if Bibi Netanyahu killed Charlie Kirk. And then we had a round of influencers who lied and said Charlie was not changing on Israel, that he wasn't having any disagreements regarding that topic, that the day he died, he just loved Israel so much. And I demonstrated via a text message, which you just mentioned, and you're now contextualizing and pretending it was just about Tucker Carlson, which is not true. It was a part of a...
So, friends, this is called Gish Gallop. So notice Andrew made very linear points in his statement. She's Gish Galloping. So what happens in a Gish Gallop is you throw out so much information that now Andrew is going to have to say, okay, well, what do I even address here? Oh, no, yes, people were saying Israel was behind it. That's why Benjamin Netanyahu came out. Yes, there was a disagreement they had, but that wasn't the confrontation they had in the Hamptons. So she's just throwing out, you see, she's just throwing out like 7 different things, and there's no evidence. It's just claims. Claims are not evidence. Okay. So just saying stuff is not evidence. So now she's already throwing out like 5 or 6 different things that now she doesn't have to engage with.
Broader shift that Charlie was having over the last, I would say, actually on your show, it began since October 7th, which is when I began asking myself more questions about Israel as well. And so, yeah, when all of these things happen in the immediate aftermath, and then I drop a text message after everyone is denying that, Tucker Carlson then comes out and confirms the conversations that he had with Charlie. Megyn Kelly then comes out and confirms the private conversations that she had with Charlie. People then begin to ask a reasonable question, which is, why are we lying about this? If they were forthcoming with that and they had said, hey, yeah, Charlie was starting to ask questions. I think after October 7th, it's reasonable that people are starting to re-examine our relationship with it.
Well, that was publicly documented. Charlie said what he said about it being was it false flag? Not was false flag, stand down orders. He said that on PBD's podcast. We all knew this. A lot of people ask that, right? But that doesn't mean that it's true. Just because people are asking questions, Candace, it doesn't mean that that's particularly true. A lot of people were like, well, wait a minute, what? That's weird. I've been to Gaza myself. It's like, that seemed really military protected. That's wild. How did that happen, right? So a lot of people ask that question. It doesn't mean necessarily that he thought that October 7th was an inside job and therefore changed it, flip-flopped completely on Israel.
We wouldn't be here today. But it has been lie after lie after lie, debunk after debunk after debunk. Yes, I did share that I had a dream that Charlie was betrayed. It's not a dream anymore. It's a reality. I look at what the organization has become, the people that they are partnering with, the lies that they are telling, the extraordinary people that they're sending out to say that I hadn't speak to Charlie since 2018, and it begins to look like a conspiracy. And just as a historical fact, that entire term was created by the CIA to gaslight people after the assassination of JFK. So it's not exactly one that makes me nervous. Like, calling somebody a conspiracy theorist is essentially saying that they demand further answers. They're not accepting the FETSLOP. So I'm grateful that you came today. I don't need to, like I said, take cheap shots and discuss your manner of debate or your strategy. And I'm also grateful that you shared that you had that text message today, because everybody watching knows that I have been demanding not a debate, just an open conversation with Turning Point USA. They should be here. It shouldn't be you in that chair. It should be the person that took Charlie's place. Maybe Erica Kirk, maybe Andrew Colbert. He's a spokesperson.
But Erica talked to you and she did give you evidence and you ignored her after she repeatedly asked you to stop. You did have a conversation, a private conversation with Erica. She came to you as well.
And rather than doing that,
they just don't want to make content with you, Candace. But Andrew's, Andrew, this is the part of Andrew you got to appreciate. Andrew will sit and go there with you.
They send us another influencer. So let's see how it goes.
Just out of curiosity, are you between 0 to 100? What is the likelihood that you think Tyler Robinson shot Charlie Kirk and killed him?
Based on the evidence right now, I don't know. I'd say 75, 85%.
Candace?
0%.
0%.
I'm at 0.
So
with what we've seen in terms of the evidence, I'm at 0%.
So not only.
So she is certain. 0% is you are certain. Okay. This is the issue. This is the distortion. It's not 40% because of some of these other things. No, she is certain. This is the issue right here, friends. This is the issue. Even Andrew is being willing and saying 75, 80%. I think it's higher than that personally. I think it's like 90%.
That maybe somebody was behind him as a patsy influence. And we're not even saying that he didn't even shoot Charlie Kirk.
Right. I would, if you said, was he involved that day? As I have consistently said on my platform, I would say yes, he was. I don't know what role he played.
Was he the shooter, Candace?
But as the shooter, 0%.
Do you have any evidence for it?
For what? My percentage?
The fact that he didn't shoot and kill Charlie Kirk.
Yes, which I'm hoping we're going to get to all of the evidence that he feels that he has. I mean, I'm not even convinced that Charlie was shot from the rooftop on Losi that day, based on the evidence that has been.
I'm not even convinced Charlie was there. I'm not even convinced. That could have been a body.
Watch that, man.
I'm not even convinced that
a lot of good stuff.
that event even occurred. It could have all been staged. Those all could have been trauma actors. Does that sound familiar?
Do you think he was shot?
I do not think that Charlie was shot from a 30-06.
Yeah, but just shot at all.
I don't know. I think that a projectile hit Charlie, and I'm open to other people's presentations, but I have not seen any compelling evidence that Charlie was shot by a 30-06.
Can we see, maybe if we're going to have an olive branch to each other, if maybe we can establish what we consider the facts of the case to be first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So you're not sure if he was actually shot. You're open to alternative theories.
He was definitely hit with a projectile of some description. If we're talking about, was he shot from a gun, a 30-06, I would say definitively no.
Okay.
By the way, 30-06 is the same one, same bullet, I believe, that shot MLK. So it's not uncommon for someone to be shot and to absorb the bullet because there's different types of bullets. Again, maybe she doesn't shoot, but like if you have a hollow point versus a regular range bullet versus a hunting bullet that has less kickback, these are all going to have different impact on the target. So so she doesn't even think he was shot. She said he was hit by a projectile.
Okay. It defies common sense to think that he had a Superman neck, and even if he did have a Superman neck, which has been demonstrated, I think actually recently a YouTuber actually set up Valhalla steel cages and shot it, and it went through. So under no circumstance will I.
So at least not a 30-06.
Definitively not a 30-06 low C, 150 feet. No.
But you're not necessarily closing off the avenue that he could have been shot at all.
With maybe a smaller
caliber. Okay, and then there's some things that I'm going to make concessions on that I do think we need more answers on, and I'm fine with that, and we can get to those things as well. The other thing is in the timeline, one of the things that we dispute, I think, on the timeline is that you think that Robinson drove hours away to a steakhouse in the timeline. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the compelling evidence that you think you have there?
I spoke to the owner of the restaurant, and I have seen the receipt. I know the conversation that I had, and I think it's enough that, it will be presented, obviously, if this goes to trial. But yes, I do believe that he was in Panguitch, which is near his grandparents' home.
Did he give you an unedited copy of that receipt?
I have seen an unedited copy of that receipt. It was not given to me from the owner. But I want to, before we get into like all the timeline stuff, I want to address what you think is evidence so we can keep this on par with what your claim is.
Well, I think that that's a piece of evidence that's in dispute. And that's why I'm...
Yeah, but we're trying to get to whether there's overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson did this.
Yeah,
so whether then starting with...
If you want to use the first part of that for the internal critique...
Yeah, we should go over the actual evidence that we feel...
The first reason that I think it's compelling evidence is that Tyler Robinson's rifle was found near the crime scene. So I would consider that to be very good evidence. And also the fact of the matter is that I dispute this claim that a 30-06 could not have made this wound. I think that that's absurd. 150 grain Remington core lock absolutely could shatter when it hits the neck of any human being. When you say that there's some steel neck and it's a smaller caliber, you have to make a counter explanation. Why wouldn't a smaller caliber also go through bone?
It could. I didn't say it can't.
Right, exactly. So if that's the case, then ammunition is going to be the critical key here. And if we have frangible ammunition, which we do in this case, a flex tip round, well, I'm sorry, not a flex tip, a soft point round, 150 grain Remington core lock, that's just a small jacket that goes around the actual lead piece. This thing could have split apart in air for all we know, but definitely upon impact. And we have the medical examiner who confirms this in a summary. My team can bring that up, the summarization, which means he would have to be a part of some kind of conspiracy as well.
Okay, so just to start with...
So you guys see what he did. He said, look, it's not uncommon caliber. I just told you guys this. And he's saying, and if this is a conspiracy, then a medical examiner would also have to be in on the conspiracy. So here, when something becomes improbable conspiracy, it just means the number of people involved becomes overwhelming. So now it's not just, one person. In her world, there would have to be hundreds, if not thousands of people, including the medical examiner, including all these folks who were in on this situation.
With your point about saying that the gun was found near him, near Losey Center, or I guess off in the woods. That gun, did you watch the testimony? Did you watch the preliminary hearing?
It live. Yeah.
Okay, so forgetting what the summary of the medical report was, did you watch the testimony that was given by the...
So forget the medical report. Let's talk about this testimony that, by the way, I think if she's talking about the same testimony, she intentionally clipped out the end of the DNA being trillions and trillions more likely to be Tyler's than anyone else. So she clipped that out in her live stream. I think if this is what she's mentioning, I'm not sure if this is what she mentioned.
Oliver, the ATF woman, Samantha Carner, any of those people who went into the science of...
Yes, I recall. You're talking about...
The bullet analysis.
Yeah, when they went into the DNA.
Okay, so that's kind of the most relevant part.
Okay.
I'm not denying, I've never denied on my platform or anywhere else that a gun owned by Tyler Robinson was found near the crime scene.
Okay,
right?
So she's admitting
that doesn't remove it. If you think somebody set up as a patsy, you could take a gun out of this room right now and you could walk out and plant it in the woods near a crime scene. Like, that's not convincing evidence to me.
I concur with the fact that that's a possibility.
So you I think have said on a platform that you were a gunsmith. Okay, and for how many years?
Many years.
For many years. You also said that you were an Army sniper.
I wasn't a sniper in the Army.
Okay.
And I never said that.
Sorry, your wife tweeted that you were an Army sniper.
Yeah, I don't know. Like 15 years ago, she said something.
Does it change 15 years later?
She said that it was colloquial. So
Army sniper is a colloquial term?
Yeah, I was never an Army sniper.
Okay. What did you do in the Army? Did you teach this? She then corrected and said you taught rifles in the Army?
No, I didn't teach rifle. No, I taught rifles as a private citizen.
Okay.
And I was an NRA instructor for many years alongside my gunshop.
As with your expertise, when she gave testimony on the stand, Samantha Carner, that there was dust and there was debris that was found in the gun barrel.
Yep.
And then when we had the person who, and this was, I believe, Caitlin Oliver, who explained painfully about the DNA, the prints.
Well, let's start with a point in time.
I'm not done. You said something, so I'm going to finish my thought, right?
You don't want to do a point in time?
No, well, sure. If you want to respond to,
Well,
I want you to respond to 2 points. I want you to start with 2 points.
Okay.
Dust and debris in the gun barrel.
Yeah.
Secondly, the fact that there were 5 sets of prints, 5+ actually by the end of the testimony, 5 sets of prints for which we already had the woman who worked for the FBI forensics testify that above 2 prints, if you're taking a sample, it's no longer a science, right? She testified that when they took the sample of what was on the trigger, they saw 5+ prints. And among those 5+ prints, Tyler Robinson's was the most degraded. So I would like you to explain how Tyler Robinson's prints could be the most degraded when she said, actually, you could have DNA on something that you've touched. You could have DNA on something that you've never touched. And to get DNA degradation, they've looked at pieces, items 20, 40 years on that don't have degradation. Yet Tyler Robinson's prints, amongst 5+ other prints, were the most degraded on that weapon.
Yeah. So let's get into all 3 of the claims. First, with debris. When it comes to debris, firing a rifle doesn't always blow the debris out of the barrel.
Okay.
So,
you think there could be debris and dust.
Yeah.
He just fired the weapon.
Sure.
Okay.
Not only that, he left it in a forest. Now, I don't know if you agree with me, but if you leave a rifle in a wooded area, it's also possible that debris could get in that way. But I'm not even sure that that's what
the debris thing is. Such a stupid point. The fingerprints is a stupid point because they confirmed that it was his DNA by 1 trillion times.
the case is. I think it's far more likely that he fired the shot, it just didn't blow all the debris out, and it often doesn't. You'll find this if you take Grandpappy's dirty rifle and it's all dusty inside the bore and you go fire it, you'll often look down the bore and there's still dust.
Okay.
Happens all the time.
Okay. And the prints?
Yeah, so the prints, we don't know all of the details on just yet.
We do. It was excruciatingly long testimony on the prints.
We don't, because they haven't gone to trial, so we don't know on the print front. But Tyler Robinson's DNA was on there. You made the claim that Lance Twig's DNA was on there, and it was not.
Well, when she gave the testimony, first let's go to your first one because that's wrong. We can get a fact check on that. What do you mean we don't know until it goes to trial about the degraded prints? She testified, and she was the person who took the prints.
Yes, but the problem is that inside of this particular testimony, you agree with me that there's going to be much more of the DNA analysis in the trial, right?
But you also would agree that her fact is not going to change, that among the prints, his was the most degraded. So I'm asking you to address that. How could that be possible?
Let's give it, let's just grant this for a second as a possibility that his fingerprints were degraded.
It's not a possibility. It's a fact. The person who took it.
I'm just granting it for the sake of argument.
You should grant it because it's a fact that she presented.
So now it's granted. So what?
What do you mean, so what?
Yeah, so what? What does that prove?
It proves that if his prints were the most degraded amongst 5 of them, you're going to have to explain how that's possible if he's the one that recently fired the weapon.
Yeah, so wait a second. You're saying that it's an impossibility that if his fingerprints are the most degraded.
I'm telling you to explain it. You're the gunsmith.
Well,
so
wait a second. How would a gunsmith give an analysis on fingerprints or DNA? Do you think that I work in a DNA laboratory?
So your answer is I don't know. You can just say you don't know. You don't have to.
But I did.
No, you said so what? So say I don't know. I actually don't have an explanation for that, Candace. Well, I think that what it would prove is that it is a more viable theory that people who had stronger prints on the gun may have used it more recently.
Did they say who else had fingerprints on the gun?
They named Matt Robinson explicitly. Okay. And this was a part of the testimony where she was speaking about how they got samples of elimination samples from the home of Amber Robinson, Matt Robinson, and Lance Twigg. So those were the 3 names they named.
So are you saying that Twig's
Would you like me to finish my statement?
I just want to make sure I'm clarifying.
I'm trying to finish the answer, but it can't be clarified until the answer comes out of my mouth.
Okay,
so
go ahead.
This was a portion of her testimony where she was explaining how they got elimination samples from the home. And she named Matt Robinson, Amber Robinson, and Lance Twiggs as the elimination samples that she was using. And so she explicitly said, some of them, so we can assume 2 out of the 3, their prints were found on the gun. She explicitly named Matt Robinson as someone who had prints on the gun, and then said there were 5 people that they had taken that sample from. And
it's a family gun. What does this have to do with anything? His DNA was on the weapon. His fingerprints were on the weapon, though they were degraded. That does not mean that he did not take the shot. This is so asinine.
Again, what's also relevant here is the earlier testimony, which came from the FBI forensics analyst. I believe it was on day 2, where she said that when you're using those mixtures and those samples and you get up to 5+, it's really hard to make any sort of a determination. So both of those things are relevant. If you can't explain why his prints are the most degraded and you're saying he is the shooter, it's not really a so what. It's an open-ended question that people have a right to pursue. It's not a conspiracy. It's actually proof of my claim that there's evidence that he was set up as a patsy.
That wouldn't prove anything about him being a patsy.
It said it's evidence to support the claim that he could have been set up
Okay.
as a patsy.
So this is why I said earlier, so what? Because even if it's the case, this doesn't have an explanation for it yet. That doesn't actually give you any evidence in your corner for Tyler Robinson being a patsy.
Okay,
Hang on. I didn't cut you off. Right? You would need to actually explain how this would demonstrate Tyler Robinson. This is tied into to Robinson being a patsy.
Yep.
Are you claiming that these fingerprints were Lance Twiggs or that he had any DNA there?
I'm saying that it could be Matt Robinson, it could be Amber Robinson. That sort of information is going to come out during the trial.
How would that tie into the idea that he's a patsy?
Yes, because if his is the most degraded prints and the information that I shared on my platform is true, that this gun was given to Tyler Robinson as an heirloom. I had conversation with members of the Robinson family, Twiggs family, both of them. You know, like I said, we're not just dreaming. And if we're having those conversations and they told me that gun was only given to Tyler Robinson because it was a family heirloom. Okay, so it was his grandfather's gun or great-grandfather's gun. I don't remember the difference. I don't remember which one it was. And so he got it because he's the firstborn. So, but he's not much of a shooter, is what I was told. And so he has this because he inherited it, essentially. So if I get something from my grandpa and I put it up on the shelf and I own this, you could see that could be.
How do we get to the patsy part?
You don't let me ever get to the end of the sentence. So how could we get to the patsy part?
Oh gosh, now it's going to be, well, you're cutting me off. You're cutting me off. It's like, but she's cutting him off and not letting him finish the thought either.
Okay,
If I can't get to the end of the sentence.
patiently till we get
So
to
that could be a reasonable explanation as to why there was dust in the barrel, because he doesn't often shoot this weapon and he is indeed a fisher. And it could also be a reasonable explanation for why we have Matt Robinson's prints on this. Obviously, Lance Twiggs, even if he has prints on things, they live together, that doesn't really mean anything. But that could demonstrate that somebody took his weapon and put it somewhere. His prints are the most degraded. Somebody else's prints, there's more presence of somebody else's prints. And that could demonstrate that somebody is taking items from his house and putting it into
But it also could demonstrate nothing. So the problem that you have here is that this is pure conjecture.
No,
this is not evidence that Tyler Robinson is a patsy.
Right.
It's only evidence that you have conjectured up that, well, if it's the case that these are the more degraded prints, then therefore that means must be patsy because dad's fingerprints on gun.
I didn't say must be
Describe
patsy.
how this actually links in to Robinson being a patsy.
Okay, I just described that for you, so I can explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you, so I'm going to move on from that. But to just go back to your point about this is not evidence, you can't make that claim because the entire basis for why you think that there's evidence for Tyler Robinson being the person that took the shot is based off of a hearing under Utah 1102 rules, meaning that they are doing the exact same thing that I am doing. This is the state. You said you're here to represent the state. Well, did you watch the preliminary
I
hearing?
didn't say I was here to represent the state.
The state's position you think is strong and convincing.
What I'm here to do is represent my own opinion.
You said in your opening statement,
based on the evidence presented so far by the state
has
that I find it
presented
convincing.
evidence.
Someone said Candace Owens went to the Shirk Uthman School for Debating. Hey, thanks for the super chat, Rick. Sorry, folks, I got to go listen to Candace Owens because my brain cells die. I wonder how her theories will do when she's before Jesus Christ.
It's under
Appreciate
Utah's 1102 rule.
But this doesn't demonstrate any patsy.
No, that's very important because that rule is hearsay. So you can't say at the same time, Candace, you're not allowed to. And what that means under the Utah rule, which I'm sure you know, because I'm sure you watched the preliminary hearing and yourself understand what that means, is that the entire hearing was hearsay. It means none of that information that was presented is going to be allowed. The majority of it, the overwhelming majority of it is not going to be allowed at the trial. They're allowed to present when it's just a probative hearing.
I don't think all the evidence that was put in was hearsay.
Okay, you didn't watch this case.
But not only that,
no. This is a huge point. This is crazy that you don't know this.
Fact check. If all the evidence
we need more than a fact check. This was every single day. Utah rule 1102.
Go there. So they said there's a medical examiner's explanation of the shooting.
Right.
That's in the back. Rob, if you want to pull it up, and then Candace, if anybody from your team wants to pull something up, no problem as well. But they're requesting it. If you guys got it, pull it up so we can show it.
She said everything in the preliminary trial was hearsay. Was that the claim? Is this
in the interim? Is that it?
Yeah.
So
I'll read this.
What are we looking at, just so we know?
Yeah. So this says the bullet, or at least part of it, sequentially perforated the interior left of Mr. Kirk's neck, strap muscles of the left side of the neck. This is a summary, by the way. Left common cartoid on the left internal external jugular veins. The bullet also obliterated the left side C27 vertebrae, transacted the cervical spinal cord.
Right.
Medical examiner observed a significant portion of Kirk's cervical spinal cord was traumatically absent. Mr. Kirk suffered from other severe injuries, including bilateral, apical, and posterior intercausal hemorrhages, pulmonary, apical hemorrhages, multiple disruptions to the thyroid, et cetera, et cetera. So the summary of the examination is that he was shot.
Right.
Okay.
That was what they were pulling that up for.
Okay. And I'm not disputing that he could have been hit with a projectile. We're not just.
She keeps saying could have been hit with a projectile. Well, clearly he was shot, Candace. Oh my God.
Disputing that. So I don't know why this was brought up as a fact check. Could you bring up 1102 Utah rule? Because this is an unbelievable point that you're making by saying that I am not allowed to infer off of evidence.
You can infer. I'm trying to follow the inference.
But your entire reason, like you asserted that you believe there's overwhelming evidence on the basis of what we saw in the preliminary hearing. The entire preliminary hearing was hearsay.
Yeah, I'm fine with your inferences.
But no, you just literally said I couldn't do that. Yes, I can.
No, I didn't. I'm just saying from your inference, how do we get to Patsy?
This is how you got to shooter. Tyler Robinson did it
No,
the same way that
I
you got
didn't
to
get
Tyler
to shooter from that.
Yes, you did. You again, this is something important. So we should pull up a fact check about what the 1102 Utah and under their constitution, for the sake of a preliminary hearing, they do not have to have hard evidence. They don't have to put people on the trial.
They don't have to.
But no, that's why the entire hearing was basically hearsay. Officer Bagley,
but not all of it, like I said.
The overwhelming majority.
Again, no dispute.
Outside of the one that you don't want to give. Please don't cut me off.
Though.
Outside of that is what's in dispute. It means that your entire brand of saying you don't have evidence, falls apart when the entire preliminary hearing is based off of hearsay. In fact, Lance's testimony before they had
This is what I was saying. She's a better arguer. She's just talking. She's just talking a whole lot. And so now Andrew is going to have to reel this in. Patrick's going to have to reel this in because she's just talking over him.
Our debate, actually.
She's saying that the preliminary hearing was just hearsay. That's insane. There's a ton of forensic, actual evidence presented in the preliminary hearing. Not all of it, but a good chunk of it.
Maybe it was more than an hour debate before he sat, and they said, this is not going to be allowed. You wouldn't even be allowed to do this. We'd be able to cross-examine him. The questions that they're asking Lance are all leading. And what did he say? Well, I'm a magistrate under Utah Constitution, 1102. It is my job to allow all of this so we can see if the state has enough here that we can then move to a trial, which will then, they would not allow this stuff. They would say we get to cross-examine Lance. Lance,
but you're arguing things I'm not disputing.
But
Andrew's dying for a smoke right now. Yeah, probably. I'm dying for a smoke right now. And I'm not even in the room with this lady.
Entire substance of your argument.
I don't even smoke.
Is that people can't infer off of evidence. That's what you're saying to me. When you say Candace,
here, I'll give you the argument
now. Which they fact.
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
Off of that,
didn't say that.
Tyler could have been a patsy.
You're just literally making stuff up. So here's what the position is.
I'm not making stuff up. I'm saying that I think you. Let's pull that up. Let's pull that up. I'm doing exactly what the state did. I'm looking at a piece of evidence and I am saying.
You're not showing me how you get there.
Can you describe to the audience what?
Yes. So this, just so everybody who's watching this at home understands what I'm saying, even if he doesn't. What Andrew is arguing is that I don't have the right to extrapolate from a fact like
making it up. Just purely making it up. I'm asking based on
Andrew.
Based on
can
your
I show my evidence? You just showed yours. Reliable hearsay.
You'll get a chance.
Reliable hearsay in criminal preliminary examinations. The entire preliminary hearing that you just saw was on the basis of reliable hearsay, and what that means is.
She said, statement of rule, reliable hearsay is admissible. It's admissible. It doesn't mean the entire thing is on reliable hearsay. Just because a reliable hearsay is admissible, that doesn't mean the entire, oh my gosh. Definition of reliable hearsay. And then it goes through so this is reliable hearsay in criminal preliminary examinations. This is saying it's allowed to show what they have. That's not saying that it's all reliable hearsay.
Essentially is the people who are making the statements can just say, Patrick told me that he did this on Monday. Patrick's not here. And that is, they can allow that into the hearing. That's just because it's just meant to be probative. And so it's the state saying, here's what
PBD is. I love PBD. He's my Armenian brother from another mother. Yes.
We have inferred.
He needs to inject.
So you are allowed to take a piece of evidence and then you are allowed to infer off of that evidence. Okay. Case in point, that's a demonstration that's a demonstration of what I just did. I said, the prints were the most degraded off of Tyler Robinson. And from that, what I am inferring is that it's plausible that Tyler Robinson was set up.
That doesn't, that's the point in contention.
That's not a point in contention. That's
the point in contention.
It's not a point in contention. If you're saying
it is the point in contention.
It's not the point in contention. I'm telling you that is what the entire hearing allowed for. So the evidence that he is describing, he is using to argue his case is all based on inference, not fact.
Great.
Inference, not fact. So what they are inferring off of the facts.
So again, we're going to take this. And I'm just going to even grant it because it's irrelevant. I'm asking how you get to the inference that even if you dispute that piece of evidence, that means Patsy. I'm looking for the logical chain for how you get to that inference.
What I am telling you is it's the exact same way that when you tweeted, I think that this evidence is overwhelming. When they say that looks like Tyler Robinson's car, he drives a similar car. Okay. They are inferring that that's Tyler Robinson.
Can you walk me through the inference? So that I understand.
It's not a fact. It's not a fact. When you show a blurry image, which you kept citing that we have.
No, I'm talking about your inference that the fingerprints, even if they're degraded, equals Patsy.
Right.
How do you get that inference?
I didn't say it equals Patsy. I think it is enough evidence that it should be explored, which is exactly what this preliminary was in the inverse.
That's not what in dispute. What's in dispute is when you said, I'm using this as evidence that he could have been a Patsy. I'm asking, how do you get the inference to Patsy from that?
Because what I am saying is that it shows that somebody else had more DNA presence on that gun than Tyler Robinson did. So it is plausible, which is all they're doing. They're presenting plausibility based off of the facts. Okay. It is plausible that somebody just took his gun and put it there. That's it.
Is there equally
that's how it works.
And is there equally 100 other plausible explanations?
I think that's the reason why most people are exploring when things don't make sense.
Got it.
So yes, at the beginning of that, this is how the court process works.
So
just
if,
so we're clear,
if
this
there's
is the
100 other
state's evidence,
possible
and they're
explanations, then Candace, why is it that we should go with this idea that it was a patsy?
I'm not saying that we should go with the idea that it was a patsy. I am saying that there is.
Oh, I thought that was the whole defense, your whole claim.
No,
today.
my whole claim was that there is more evidence that he is set up as a patsy.
How does that equal evidence of patsy?
I don't know how many times I can say this. Like I'm saying that I am using the exact same mechanism that you are accepting for some reason in the Utah courtroom.
Yeah.
Right. To say, I'm going to look at the evidence.
This is the issue. She doesn't understand. This is the core of the issue.
I'm going to infer an alternative theory. So you just saw the states and you're accepting it. And they have not presented any concrete facts. You listed on your own Twitter that what you found to be convincing was something that looked like his car pulled into the driveway, a blurry image.
No, I didn't.
The standard white guy coming up the steps that could literally be anyone.
This never happened.
Can we get a fact check on that? Can we pull up his tweet where he goes over
I didn't
the
say that's what convinced me.
When you actually didn't say it's what convinced me, but you said this is the evidence that you found to be overwhelming, and you named, I believe, actually 5 things. I think you said it was his car. You said it was.
Well, there's multitudes of things that I find.
You just said you didn't say it, so we're going to get a fact check on that. You did.
Go ahead.
You said the blurry images coming up the steps. Quite literally, when Officer Bagley testified, they talk about when I'm talking about making inference. This is the most I thought was the most absurd testimony I've ever heard. And pardon me, it was actually David Hull. They asked him a question. How did you know the guy in the maroon shirt was the same as the guy that came up the stairs later that was wearing the American flag black shirt? And he said, they're wearing the same shoes.
Why is that absurd?
That's how you decided these two are the same people. Oh, wow. What a scientific. They're both wearing Converses. Okay. That's an absurd thing to say. That is not evidence that these are the same people if we're both wearing Converses. That was what he said. That's what flew on the stand.
But I still don't understand how that would be absurd. If somebody,
it's an absurd thing.
For instance, if somebody were to change their clothes but keep the same shoes on, wouldn't you utilize the shoes to try to track that person?
The idea that on a college campus, 2 people wearing this totally different outfits, but both wearing Converses can't happen is such an absurdity that I don't even need to argue that. I'm just going to let people. Why is it absurd? Just concede that point. Obviously, it's absurd thing to say.
I'm not
I know
sure,
these are the same people because they're both wearing Converse.
Yeah, I'm not sure if in context that's what happened, but
it
even
is.
if it
you
is,
can get a fact check on it.
Even if it is, again,
and it was
if we're utilizing inferences, whenever we're dealing with logic and we're dealing with making a logical inference, we're going to take the entire collaboration of evidence and then we're going to make inferences from that. You would do that with any type of logical proposition. Otherwise, you could never have a true or false claim.
Right.
You just told me I couldn't.
So when that never happened. You're just making stuff up. So anyway, when we're talking about logical inferences, what I'm looking for is the logical inferences that you have that Tyler Robinson's a patsy based on a totality of evidence that you have.
We can keep going through your other evidence. We should find his tweet where he lists the reasons that he was convinced.
So let's start with the 30-06. I think that's fine.
Your team's looking for. Do you remember how long ago that was?
The tweet of the 5. Did you delete it? Or no?
No, I don't delete tweets.
Okay, cool. I just look for, he said it was his car. It was his, it was the car and it was definitely the staircase photos. And it was when the trial was going on.
Okay, she has it. Perfect. Okay, if you got, Skylar has it. If you want to pull it up so we can see it.
Somebody said, so give me the clear evidence right here. I want you to provide it right here. All I heard from the investigator was, we believe this to be Tyler Robinson. Is belief something you go as a fact? You wrote the car pulling in. That's a totally blurry image. Robinson getting out of it. You have no idea if that's Tyler Robinson. The fact that he is seen 4 other times on camera, the fact being just a standard white boy with brown hair was seen walking up staircase. The DNA on the roof, we should discuss that. And on the screwdriver that he left behind, it's overwhelming, man.
Yeah, but that's not an exhaustive list.
Well, just so we're clear, you did tweet it.
But it's not an exhaustive.
Well,
you said
it's a tweet. She thinks that that's his exhaustive list. They're there to debate the exhaustive list. Oh my gosh. Remember when I told you, what I got to tell you guys at the beginning, she's a great arguer. If she's not reeled in, she's just going to gish gallop and keep throwing out stuff. Think about everywhere the discussion's gone so far.
You should concede.
You said I only said this one thing and said that was overwhelming, actually.
That's not what I said.
It is. You can even pull your own clip.
Can you fact check if that was said or not? I did not hear her say
So the thing is funny here is we still aren't getting to any of these inferences. So why
are you pivoting? So just say you're wrong. Just say I was wrong.
I'm not wrong. So back to the tweet aspect here. It was really funny. That's not an exhaustive list of why I find it.
I didn't say it was exhaustive. I just said you said it.
And on top of it, no, you didn't. You said that I only said this one thing and then said based on that it's over. Well, I didn't. You didn't mention that I mentioned the screwdriver, DNA, all these other things. You never mentioned any of that. So no, you're actually incorrect there. But on top of that, moving over to the actual evidence itself.
Are you
yes, I'm okay. Anyway, back to the evidence
if you're
itself.
okay.
Yes,
actually, I'm glad you're asserting that you're okay. I wasn't worried about your health. I'm just saying that I just said you tweeted this. You said no, I didn't. We got a fact check, and now you're just going to gaslight me and pretend that I said
no gaslighting.
It wasn't exhaustive. I never said that. I just said you did say this.
Zero gaslighting.
I didn't say you couldn't have said more, but I would like to address what you said in that tweet.
Time. If this is how you want to spend it interrogating my position, you can do it that way.
I'm just addressing what you asserted on your Twitter was the hard evidence that convinced you was overwhelming. That's literally
that's
your
not what
claim.
you said.
This is what happens when you don't have some sort of structure and moderation in debates. She is just rambling all over the place, jumping from point to point, still not making the connection. of how does this prove that he's a patsy? How does it prove that? Okay, preliminary hearings can have hearsay. That doesn't mean that's all they have. They actually did present hard evidence. Okay, he's explained that just because there's fingerprint degradation on the gun, that does not mean that he didn't shoot the gun. Just because there's dust in the barrel, that doesn't mean that the gun was not shot. This is just ramble, gish gallop. So now Andrew has to kind of reel this in. He's gonna, because Pat's not doing a good job of moderating. He's gonna have to reel this in and try to focus the debate, which I think he's going to do. But listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. I need a drink. Give me 1 sec.
That's not actually, in fact, what happened in that exchange. I was here for it.
So what's your position here?
Yeah, so my position is that based on all of the evidence, which has been demonstrated, at least all the evidence to my knowledge, that I'm actually not seeing anything that's compelling as an alternative theory. I'm not seeing anything which is convincing me of something otherwise than what the state is presenting as evidence. That's my position. If
Okay.
that's what you're asking me.
So just going back to what you did actually tweet, is it fair for me to ask questions about that?
Is that the only tweet you're going to ask me about?
Well, we're addressing your.
She's saying that tweet is not gotcha. That is not a smoking gun, Candace.
Claim that the evidence is overwhelming, and this is a tweet where you listed what you felt was overwhelming. I think that's fair,
but not,
right? I feel like
sure,
that's fair,
but not exhaustive. Just so you know.
And I never said it was
Okay.
exhaustive.
Go
Even though
ahead.
you said I did.
Sure, whatever. You want.
But yeah, so going back to that, all of that, as you say to me, well, Candace, why are you addressing and making inferences off of the testimony?
No, I never asked you why. You're making inferences. I asked you how, with the inference you made, you got to the conclusion.
Okay, so I would like to know how you got to the conclusion, and I'm just going to throw it right back at you, because for some reason you permit yourself to do it, and that's what I'm demonstrating is that you permit yourself to do it, and then you say when I do it, it's a conspiracy, right?
No.
How are you able to?
So she's dominating the frame here. That's the part that I told you guys from the beginning. She's dominating the frame. She's the goalpost is moving. To her audience that isn't familiar with this sort of stuff, that doesn't understand how logic and reason work, they're gonna be like, oh, she's owning it. She's not. She's just all over the place.
Infer off of blurry staircase images that is Tyler Robinson.
Yeah. So in that particular case, what you do is you take that evidence, you combine it with other evidence. So it's not just that Tyler Robinson is seen in the staircase.
Why are you calling him Tyler Robinson in the staircase? That's what I want to get to.
Yeah, because we'll just use this. If you don't agree that that's Tyler Robinson, then you would just have to humor me. I think it is, so I'm using the name.
But why do you think it is? Because you make everybody, you call them
literally what I'm trying to explain to you.
Okay.
So if you're asking for my inference, why I think it's Tyler Robinson is because Tyler Robinson said in his text messages, you'll be able to see me on security footage at the campus. Said it in his own messages. On top of that, Twigs, yes, you can pull them up if you want to fact check that. He did say.
Yeah, I would. I actually think I really did miss that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't remember him saying you're going to see me in.
Yeah, I'm paraphrasing, but it was
that up.
Yeah, I think that's
by the
right.
way, Twigs himself.
So she's that's actually brilliant, Andrew. You cannot dismiss the video footage when you have concurrent evidence along with the video footage saying he's going to be in the video footage, in the surveillance footage. So if they pull this up, I mean, that's a pretty. Hopefully they find this. I'm not as familiar with the cases Andrew is, but if that's true, that's pretty. That's a pretty big point.
Said that he had some maybe a tiny bit of doubt, but it sure looked like Tyler Robinson inside of this various surveillance footage that he saw.
So Lance, sorry,
hang on. So there's multiple reasons why it is that I believe that that's Tyler Robinson, not just because of blurry footage.
Did you have a dream? Just kidding.
No, it's because I combined multitudes of evidences.
Okay, so
that's funny.
So let's address.
I'm glad that she could joke at that. That's funny.
Those multitude of evidences. The first one we're working on a fact check on because I do not ever remember him tweeting. That's me in the staircase. Or texting that's me in the staircase. I think that I
didn't say that. I said I literally didn't. What I said is that he texted over, you'll be able to see me in footage at UVU. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said.
Yeah, could we get a fact check on that? The second thing you said was Lance's testimony, and actually what Lance says is, I'm not 100%.
I agree.
But in terms of what he wears, again, me pointing out the absurdity, he wears Converses. He wears sneakers. If his boyfriend is not 100%, I'd like to understand why Andrew Wilson is overwhelmed by it. That's what I'm trying to get to. And lastly, I would like to remind you that Lance's statement would not be permitted. This was a huge part of the preliminary hearing, that they were leading. All the questions that were asked of him were leading, so they would be struck down at the actual trial. And also, I would like to remind you that he got use immunity for that. Use immunity.
I understand.
Which means like
that happens, by the way, all the time in these
and
cases.
I'm wondering why it particularly happened for Lance and this testimony. And I would also like to point out that something that's remarkable about this, again, leaning to my perspective, that Lance has a lot more, which I have said many times, Lance has a lot more involvement than the feds are letting us know. I think more is going to come out because they interviewed him on September 11th. And then for whatever reason, just ahead of what was supposed to be slated as the preliminary hearing, which was initially supposed to be in May, they bring him back to do this interview, which in my opinion should have never been allowed. And I actually agree with the defense that it's a violation of his constitutional rights not to allow them to have cross-examined him. But I understand Utah 1102, do what you do. It's all hearsay. But to allow it in that way for him to just be able to also have use immunity, knowing that he's not going to get in trouble. He could literally get up there and lie about anything and he's not going to get in trouble because the use immunity was given to him in April, I believe. April 28th is when they gave that testimony to the defense. I think they shot it in like...
Okay. Oh gosh, Candace, shut up. She is just going on and on and on. Let's deal with the fact check. Did the footage, what's his name? Tyler Robinson say that you're going to see me in some of the footage on campus. And did Lance Twigg say that I think that's him, but I can't be 100% certain? 100% certain is not, you don't have to be 100% certain of grainy footage. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Overwhelmed is the new word for word. Absolutely. Thank you for the super chat. That is just as I thought this was going to be a dumpster fire. Anyway, Ruslan, how can I be able to connect with you? I write middle grade books and I'm trying to expand my reach with fellow Christian parents and educators. Connect with me with what regard? You're connecting with me now. Okay, let me jump back into this. Shoot me a DM on Instagram. It's probably the best way.
April 20th of 2026. That is not compelling to me for somebody who has use immunity to give a testimony and to say, I'm not really sure, but definitely like he wears jeans and stuff.
That's not what he said.
He did. Actually, you can get a fact check on that.
Yeah, that's
Scott,
not,
I think
he said
pull
much
it up
more
if you
than
want to. So a couple things we have. We have Rule 801, Tyler's messages, that says it's not hearsay. But first, go to what Candace is asking about. Skylar, I think you have it. You just text me if you want to pull it up. You said you have the text. If we can put that up on the screen. Thank you.
It was me. Look at the pictures from the surveillance footage. It was me. Okay. I literally said to you, it's not an oof. I said I didn't remember this. And I'm happy to have a fact check on that. Okay. I didn't call for the fact check saying you're wrong. I literally said I don't remember that.
Well, I'm just saying to you, like, I'm trying to be concise for you.
And then also bring the 801 that you just said. What was the other one?
Yep, the 801.
So she, in real time, Tyler Robinson is saying you're going to see me in the footage, right? From the surveillance footage. So you don't just, oh, well, it's blurry. No, he's saying that.
Tyler messages saying it's not hearsay, if you have that as well.
Tyler saying it's not hearsay.
There you go.
Wait, what are we saying? It's not hearsay?
That are not hearsay. A statement that meets the following conditions is not hearsay.
It was hearsay. They said it in the trial.
Hang on. Okay. Is consistent with the declarant's testimony and the declarant denies having made the statement or has forgotten, or is consistent with the declarant's testimony and is offered to rebut the express implied charge that the declarant recently fabricated or acted in recent improper influence or motive in testifying. So then wouldn't that mean that a bunch of this wasn't hearsay?
So the issue with his...
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Would that mean that a bunch of this wasn't hearsay?
So the opposing party, which down the line, like I said, they talked about this for about an hour and a half, and they discussed how if Lance was in court and he was giving his first party, giving his testimony as the opposing party, whatever, all of this would be fine. They had an issue with how the questions were being asked and that they were not allowed to cross-examine him. Mm-hmm. So that is why his video testimony would not be accepted in the main trial. And what I said to you is this entire preliminary hearing is under Utah's 1102. So they are allowed to just use hearsay. And
no,
so
you didn't say that. You said most of it was hearsay, actually.
Right.
Yeah,
it was an overwhelming majority.
Well, I mean, I'm leaning now into my opinion that some scientific aspects, which they kept asserting, like the federal rule 403 or 402, some of those parts were quite scientific.
Sound like you're backtracking quite a bit.
No, I'm not backtracking at all. Let me help you. Where do you feel like I'm backtracking? It literally was done under Utah's 1102.
Yeah, nobody disputed that. Okay. What the dispute was is whether or not most of it was overwhelmingly hearsay.
Yes, it was. Yes, that's a fact. I'm not backtracking on that at all. How many times did you, if you watch the preliminary hearing, it's like they constantly, I'm 1102, 1102, 1102, 1102, 1102. And the reason for that is because it's allowed. I'm not saying it's illegal. It's allowed at this stage, but I'm just reminding you that when you're going to sit across from someone and your claim is going to be, where is your hard evidence? This is what I heard and I agree with what I'm watching. You are watching the state put on a hearsay preliminary hearing. And all of those things are not going to be allowed, right? Even when they got into witness statements and things of that nature. There's a reason why they swear you in. And
she's making it sound like the entire preliminary situation was hearsay. That is not what happened at the preliminary situation. Andrew needs to hold her feet to the fire and says, I think he is going to.
They say, you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth. Did you,
Thank you for the super chat, by the way.
write this statement? So it's the overwhelming majority of what you saw was hearsay because other people were representing other people's statements. They were saying they had conversations. We don't know where it came from, all allowed at this stage. Okay. But it's hearsay. So
but even a lot of that stuff may not fall under hearsay under what we just read, right?
But the evidence that you're speaking about, like when you say that we're going off vibes, you don't know Tyler Robinson. Okay. His boyfriend is not 100% it was him. So I'm going back to your point that you made that this was overwhelming evidence for you. That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, overwhelming just means
you can't consider another option that there could have been another white guy wearing Converses on campus.
Yeah, do you agree with me that I said that what overwhelming means to me is that it's just very convincing to me?
Yeah, and I find it to be completely unconvincing.
And that's fair.
Because
I understand that
I looked at those blurry photos that they presented and said, your statement on right now is that he's wearing Converses and he also that's just crazy.
But these aren't the evidences that I find the most convincing.
Well, you said that in your Twitter.
That's not the only thing I've ever said on my Twitter about this case.
Right, but the question that was asked of you was pretty direct. Yeah. Right. What did you find?
This is not an exhaustive list of all the things that I find.
That's not what you said in the tweet. You can tweet longer too. It's not like we're limited now to 240 characters.
So anything that I tweet and all other tweets that I've ever made are now excluded because I used the word overwhelming in this one.
Well,
even though all of this information I've said so publicly over and over and over again is what informs my position or why I'm convinced on the case. That's bizarre to me.
I feel like this is Andrew versus Andrew. Somebody asked you a question. What are the points that you find to be the most overwhelming? And you answered.
You mean from that particular day of the hearing that I was responding to?
How about that particular tweet and how he was feeling in that particular moment?
Is this something you find to be more overwhelming? Let me ask that question.
Yes,
okay.
that's what I was saying.
Okay, guys, go on. What do you find to be more overwhelming?
Yeah. Can we do this? Do we want to get into it, or do we want to do a quick ad break? Are you guys good to keep going, or
I'm fine to keep going, but we can also
would you like to take a quick break.
Doesn't matter to me either
if
way.
we're going into a different topic, that may be another 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I don't want to stop.
Yeah, let's end it on what you find to be more overwhelming.
Yeah. So if for me, it's the confessions, the text messages, all of that is what I consider to be, from my opinion, that's the most convincing for me.
Okay, we should discuss the text message confessions when we get back, if you'd like to.
Okay,
that's a good idea, folks. We're going to take a quick ad break. We will be back in 3.5 minutes. Thank you.
They all got their ads running. I love it. I love it. Speaking of ads running, you guys should go pick up the Bless God Prayer Journal. All right, available right now. We only have a few of these. Got to get it to my schedule. So, anyway, sent me a video.
Better consistency. I've enjoyed it so much that
I used basically 3 pillars for the totality of the evidence. Okay, so if you want to know exactly what those 3 pillars are, this is going to be the testimony with the text messages and the confessions. This is going to be the physical evidence, and this is going to be the totality of the summary of the case. Okay, so right now we're focusing on one of these pillars in my defense, which is fine. I understand that I have to defend my claims as well. So when we're talking about the messages themselves, they seem totally valid. I have no idea why they wouldn't be valid. And I have not heard any good explanation for why it is that these messages should even be questioned.
Right.
The defense hasn't questioned them, as far as I'm aware. Nobody has actually questioned that these messages came from Robinson to date, except perhaps you and other people who are kind of in that camp. But why should I question these exactly? I'm not sure.
Okay, so first let's just go over legally what the point is of a probative hearing. The defense is not they're not there to say or to argue or to defend themselves at all. They have to address what is being presented by the state. Okay, so they're not here to then say, let me give you an explanation for these text messages.
Agreed.
The relevant portion of what the defense did do was actually before we got to the preliminary hearing. I had mentioned that it was initially supposed to be scheduled for some time in May. They asked for an extension. That reading through those filings of why they were requesting an extension and why I actually believe their extension should have been granted, because they did not receive discovery on their text messages. That was one of the reasons. There were many reasons why they wanted to have an extension, but this was crucial, right? So forget just the general sense that these messages feel off. And yes, you are allowed to have an intuition. You are allowed to have a sense and just go, this is very weird. We're being told this kid had like above a 4.0, Tyler Robinson. He wanted to get away. I think the text messages almost run head to head with themselves. Like he wanted to get away with it. So he thought the best thing to do would be to text a full confession of what he did, down to what I didn't even remember, saying, yeah, and that's also me in the surveillance footage. It felt a little too on the nose. People have common sense. You just don't text message, but we're also supposed to believe that he put in.
So what is her argument right now? It felt. Listen, Tyler Robinson could be neurotypical. He could be autistic. He could be in the middle of a state where there's a bunch of adrenaline and cortisol spiking through his body. He may not be thinking clearly or coherently. There's a number of explanations for this, of why they felt whatever. But her argument right now, just so we're all tracking, is the text messages felt. I didn't like how they felt.
A note under because and burn this and get rid of the evidence, but don't worry about that because I'm about to text you a full confession. That it felt off. It felt weird off the bat. The manner in which they were texting, we're told he's like a gamer who's using a Dremel to carve expressions, catch fascist, but then suddenly he's writing like a 1700
Also, as a Helldivers
novelist.
player, he did actually get the 500K code correct.
Yeah, I'm not a gamer, so we'll say that. We start debating.
I'm not sure if that's a joke or that just way over my head.
And that you'll be way over my head.
But yes,
but my point being is just that first, it's a general sense of why people had a reaction to these messages that seemed like they were written by Jane Austen rather than like a kid who games and writes catch.
Yeah, but do you see how that's intuition?
That is, I just said that. I said just parking aside the intuition of just something feels wrong here, which you should follow your intuition. You should actually do that. If you say the COVID vaccine is running out, feels like it's coming out too fast, and there's too many celebrities telling me to do it, I'd like to take a pause. That's good. That is, you are allowed to do that. I believe in intuition.
But hang on. Let me
aside,
respond a little bit here because you've been going for a minute. Let me at least respond to a little bit of this. So the first thing is like when people bring up the COVID vaccine, not trusting the COVID vaccine en masse was the science. That wasn't just intuition. That was the science. There was tons of competing science. Now they try to suppress it. That's true. But there was tons of competing science for why you shouldn't take a risky mRNA vaccine and masks and things like this.
Kept telling us was 100%.
Now, when you're talking about intuition, though, when you say trust your intuition, I'm actually giving a different message. You actually should be very wary about trusting just your intuition. It is true that intuition can be useful, but it has to be tempered with logic, reason, explanatory power, and evidence, not just intuition.
That's why we're parking it aside. Intuition is the first step. Something feels off, right?
Okay.
That was my first step with COVID. I don't like the way it's being pushed. It shouldn't require.
Yeah, she's filtering everything through her intuition and her feelings instead of saying, well, where's the science lead?
Celebrity
and leave some reason and logic.
Campaign, by the way. Another element of that is why people don't feel good about the Charlie thing. Why do we have so many influencers saying things? It's over. Why are you guys all using the same adjective? Can you switch it up? I'm overwhelmed. Like, chill. Like, you could say, I found some parts like compelling. I think this should go.
Like
I found some parts compelling. Maybe we should, see at the trial. That would be kind of.
Don't you think Fed slop's a buzzword for the counter industry?
But everyone on the same day watching this trial, which was, I would say, not overwhelming at all. Nobody came in medium, right? No one came in like there were some interesting aspects. This was a little suspect. But I do think it's enough to go to trial. They all came in like they were passing away and we're going to die from being overwhelmed.
Well, they're trusting their intuition.
Okay. Well, actually, in that scenario, they're looking at the preliminary hearing and have a reaction to it. It wasn't their intuition. But like I said, parking aside, just getting to the substance, parking that aside, parking aside, just your general intuition. Sometimes I might be second messages. Then
she's okay. So just think about how much time she wasted just now. You guys all saw it. Talking about intuition that she's not going to park aside. She went on the COVID vaccine trail. It's like filibustering. She's just because what's going to happen is as they move on, they start getting to the more, I don't say more substantive claim, but Andrew's arguments. It's just, now we're 3 hours in, guys. I'm pregnant. Now she said she wasn't going to set a time limit on this, but we'll see.
We look at the filings, which came from the defense, and they were requesting an extension saying, we have gone to the prosecution and we have requested all of this stuff in discovery. Yes, you are saying that you took Lance's phone, okay, and that you collected his phone on September 11th and that you sent it off or whatever. You took a picture of the text messages and we are being given these text messages to review. Crucially, Kathy Nestor said, I have not even been given access to my client's phone during this hearing. She said, I haven't even been given access to my client's phone. She can't tell you, as a part of their discovery request, it's not enough to say to me, Candace, I just got a text message from Candace. And I say, I didn't send that text message. Maybe that's what our client's saying. We don't know because we're not at the trial, right? Maybe he didn't send those messages. Could there be someone who logged into his Discord? Could there be someone who logged in to his Apple? George could be sending text messages right now. We are married. He has every login that I have. And remember, he's up for a death sentence. So if I'm able to sow reasonable doubt with common sense, he may come during the trial. And when they actually have to address these points, say, I did not write those messages. I was here. Lance, my boyfriend, was logged into my phone, logged into my Apple ID and my iCloud sending messages. I know that we have to.
We already went over the 30-06 thing. As a gunsmith, he already made the point that you can, and it does. It happened in MLK's case because there's different types of 30-6. Rewind the stream. You're late and you're rambling about stuff we already talked about.
Capability, because my husband does it. He has capability to send messages from my phone. It is not convincing to the public when, for whatever reason, the FBI combined with the SBI, it was not the prosecution's fault. They made that clear during that hearing, would not allow them that discovery request to be able to see where did that message come from. Because you're saying my client was here, right? I want to know if that message actually was generated from his iPhone when he was waiting to retrieve his, rifle, hoping that the pooch doesn't have a bad sniffer, like just weird messages.
So what does she want? She wants cell tower records? What's going to happen when they present the cell tower records? Like what? This is what I'm saying. This stuff becomes unfalsifiable. There's text messages. I don't believe the text messages. How can you believe the text messages? You want cell tower records? You want the subpoena to Apple and whatever the cell company is?
I want to make sure that, yes, it was.
He's not going to get equal uninterrupted time because Patrick B. Davis is not doing a great job of moderating this truth.
Actually him. He was holding his phone and his boyfriend didn't just log in to his computer when he was home. Lance was his boyfriend. That is a crucial fact here. That discovery was not met by the time I got to preliminary hearing. So I remain unconvinced by these text messages. Just as you feel convinced by them, I feel unconvinced by them.
Okay. So then the idea here is the reason that you don't think that these are valid text messages, and you don't, right?
It has not been proven that these messages are valid and they don't sound valid to me.
Mhm.
I don't think anyone, even if someone was
sound valid to me,
selling like a, I don't know, pot on the corner, would be smarter than to write a full-fledged confession. He even writes, I thought I would get away with it, and I was hoping never to tell you until old age. And then we're being told that he wanted to commit suicide. And okay, but he just said he wanted to get away with it, but he's not smart enough to, I don't know, maybe not text it's such a confession like we've never seen. I think this would be like the first time ever somebody has start to finish written an entire, I'm in this surveillance footage and I'm here and I'm wearing my Converse. I'm being a little facetious here, but it was a little ridiculous. It didn't pass a sniff test for me.
You have kids and you love them more than anything.
I do.
If it was the case that you thought that your kid was innocent, wouldn't you be out telling everybody and their brother that you thought that they were innocent? And also, wouldn't you maybe recant and say, hey, he didn't actually confess to me. He didn't actually, none of this happened the way that the state is presenting it. What would have prevented the parents from testifying?
Well, two things. I can answer that. And if you watch my show, I keep telling you it's not vibes. So right after the shooting happened, Lance Twiggs, the FBI put him into a safe house they paid for. They went to the parents as well, to Matt Robinson and Amber, basically said, your life's at risk. There could be somebody who jumps up and wants to avenge Charlie Kirk. And, we're going to watch you. And they went into a federal safe house. What happened next is that they started thinking that the feds were maybe gonna, maybe not as honest as they thought. And
how do you know any of that?
So you gotta watch the show, right?
Yeah, no. How do you know that?
I had a source within the Robinson family.
You have a source, an anonymous source, of course. So there's no way for us to verify that what you're saying right now is actually even true.
Right?
You find it to be reliable hearsay?
No, I don't find it to be reliable at all. It's just a source.
I'm just doing what the prosecution
What you're doing
did.
is a cool story.
It's not cool. Well,
hang on. You're giving us.
You must have hated.
Hang on. You're giving us a cool story.
Wait,
you're saying that according to your sources, that the reason that the parents haven't recanted any of this.
Recanted what? They have no statement from the parents.
Wait, I just want to make sure that if it was the case, it was being reported in mainstream media that your father came to you and said, "Hey, is this you? What's going on here?" And then he and one of his buddies took you in where you turned yourself in. You wouldn't go out and be like, no, that's not what happened.
That isn't what happened, though. You're just wrong on this.
Okay. Maybe I'm paraphrasing. What am I wrong on?
So what is sorry, just so I'm clear, where is your evidence that the parents turned him in?
Well, no. I didn't say that.
You said there's the mainstream media?
I said with a sheriff friend.
Yes.
But the father did confront him.
The father confronted what?
Tyler Robinson.
And where did you learn this? That the Tyler
Well, I mean, that's part of the official documents. Our fact checkers can pull that up. But yes.
But I'm saying, but when you say official documents, do you mean you saw this on CNN or you saw this play out in the hearing?
No, this was one of the things that I went through and fact check pre-debate.
Are you talking about the charging documents?
I think it was it could have been in the charging documents, but I did But we can pull them up.
No.
Yes, are you disputing this?
Do we have that on the back to pull it up?
I'm ready to tell you what you're talking about, the charging documents.
Don't pull them up.
Because this
Go
is
ahead.
where we had to figure out where this story came from, because everyone was operating under the assumption that Matt Robinson turned him in. Until we got to the preliminary hearing and we understood, like I said, even for that, when you are charging someone, you can use hearsay. It's all probative, right?
Sure.
Nothing. So they didn't have statements. It's not like Matt Robinson, even though he was interviewed that night. Amber Robinson was interviewed that night by a Fed, separate rooms. Tyler Robinson was interviewed by a Fed. They did not produce statements saying, my son did this. I believe my son did this. But what happened was they did interviews, but also the crucial person here who you just brought up is Mike Mitchell. Mike Mitchell.
Okay, she's not. You see, she's not dealing with the actual substance of the thing. They did not produce statements at the preliminary trial. That doesn't mean that these statements didn't happen. That doesn't mean he wasn't turned in by his own parents.
Is the biggest unknown in this entire case. Everyone keeps saying they heard from Mike Mitchell this, they heard from Mike Mitchell that. So when the person wrote up the report that night, and it was Brian Davis who wrote up what became the charging document, he after they transported Tyler Robinson from the Washington Sheriff's County office up to, I think it's Salt Lake City. I think it was 4 a.m. in the morning that they got up there. He then writes the what becomes a charging document. So he's basically saying, we all spoke to a bunch of people and here's the information that we got, right? We've not seen that.
There's no way there's going to be equal time for this conversation. She has to be speaking 70% of the time in this entire thing. And she's still not dealing with the point that by all measurable accounts, it was his parents that confronted him and made him turn himself in.
So it could have come from Mike Mitchell. Mike Mitchell could be saying,
I don't know how this negates the point, though. Why wouldn't
truly
the
negates
parents?
the point, because you don't have a statement from the parents.
Yeah,
you are going.
Why wouldn't they just correct the
it's not correcting. That doesn't negate the point. The point is that we now got the preliminary hearing. If the parents were the ones who said, I'm turning my son in because he's guilty.
I didn't say they turned him in.
I think you're talking about you said it's been the narrative. Everybody's known this. The narrative initially, which I think you agree with, was that, Matt Robinson knew his kid was guilty and turned him into the police station. What actually happened in terms of Sheriff Brooksby, who was present there and gave a press conference, what happened was this Mike Mitchell character essentially peer pressured him. And we can get a fact check on this. We can find Sheriff Brooksby's press conference. And he said, they know it's you and you're going to come in peaceably, or people are going to be banging down your door. He was a undercover cop, which I don't like that. I don't know what he did undercover. It's very hard to find anything about Mike Mitchell, but he worked with them for 20 plus years, the police officers. The reason why Tyler Robinson knew him was because he lived nearby and he was also his Boy Scout
How does
leader.
this negate that the parents could write this second? By the way, if you have the
address
evidence,
that point. I'm just saying that your first point, which is that the parents did this.
Yeah.
We don't know that the parents.
I didn't say that they did ever.
Well, you're quoting the parents as having said. You said that Matt Robinson said that his kid was. You say involved. I don't want to misquote you.
Confronted him about.
Confronted him.
Yes.
And I'm telling you that we have not seen any evidence that is true.
We can fact check that.
Okay.
Because we do have evidence.
And I'm saying it's the charging doc, which could have been derived from a statement Mike Mitchell said.
Two things I have ready in the back. One is the charging doc, and the other one is a video of Kathy Nestor saying she hasn't seen Tyler's phone.
Okay, we can run Kathy to go back, and then just to go backwards to Kathy first in court saying she didn't get her client's phone. Yeah, and then I think we'll go to the. If you're okay with that,
thing not in dispute. These are all things that are not even disputed.
Okay, so we don't show it.
We never get to the thing that I am disputing.
Well, I was just providing an answer. We were coming back in from a break because you were talking about the text messages, something that you felt was concrete. So it was just my rebuttal to you that it's not concrete because they haven't had a chance to actually answer that. And she didn't even get to see your client's phone. So that's effectively, again, the state saying these messages are real. You don't get the discovery on these messages just yet. She will during trial. They will actually.
Don't you think that would make their case fall apart if it was the case that they weren't able to actually pull the data off the text messages? Do you think the prosecution would go to court with fabricated text messages?
It's called winners and losers. They may not be fabricated, but by the way, as what they are saying, like I said, if there was somebody logged into his phone, they may not be fabricated. That's the point.
So let's get to the.
They just could be somebody else.
The parents fact check.
So I was saying, I believe what you're talking about was derived from the charging doc, which was signed off by Brian Davis. Let's see if that's correct. What are we looking at?
Robinson's mother explained that over the last year or so, I'm sorry.
Can you zoom in a little bit?
Is this the charging doc?
I can't see it. Robinson's father reported that when his wife showed him the surveillance image of the suspected shooter in the news, he agreed that it looked like their son. He also believed that the rifle that police suspected the shooter used matched the rifle that was given to his son as a gift. As a result, Robinson's father contacted his son and asked him to send a photo of the rifle, which makes sense with the text messages. Robinson did not respond. However, Robinson's father spoke on the phone with Robinson. Robinson implied he planned to take his own life. Robinson's parents were able to convince him to meet at their home.
Yes. So this is proving my point. This is from the charging document, correct? Yeah. So what I'm saying to you is that 3 people got interviewed on that night. Mike Mitchell got interviewed, Amber Robinson got interviewed, and Matt Robinson got interviewed. Of the 3 of them, only one of them actually wrote a statement, which was referred to in this preliminary trial. He came in, I believe, in March, Mike Mitchell, and he wrote a statement, which I find to be very shady that they decided to bring.
Why aren't the parents disputing that?
No. Well, first off,
that's the question I've been asking.
The parents are not going to ever play in court, play to the cameras in court when they have a legal team that is going to be advising them not to speak to the court because your son could go to prison
but
forever.
They're playing to somebody else who's your source?
I'm not going to address that.
They're playing to someone else who's your source, but won't go publicly tell the media this is not true?
Well, what I did not say to you that I just said I have a source, so I want to be very clear and take it from somebody who was involved and permanently sued. When I have to take my lawyer's advice, I mean, there's so many things that I want to respond to when people are speaking about.
Yeah, but it's bizarre that they would utilize a source which would get the information to you, but wouldn't just go to the media and be like, actually, that's all wrong.
I am telling you that you would nary find a lawyer who would advise you to go to the media.
Oh, this mother,
especially when your son was up for death.
If I thought that my kid was in any way, shape, or form going to be up, you couldn't shut me up. Or my wife, she would be like, "That's not true. That's ridiculous. There's no possible. That never happened. These people are lying through their teeth.
Right.
They'd be public whether you like it or not."
Yeah, that's for you and your wife. But when a judge issues a gag order in a case and your son is up for death, and your lawyers could be advising you that if you say anything, you could blow the case, you would have a more responsible consideration.
I see.
And we're speaking opinion here. You're like, well, I wouldn't care. I'd violate it, and I'd violate the judge's orders and see what happens.
If you have a source, it seems like they're violating it with them.
I'm not speaking to a source, but what I am saying to you is speaking just relevant to what this is. We have not seen any proof that statement that is included in this charging document. I think it is highly likely on the basis of the preliminary hearing that all came from Mike Mitchell, and Mike Mitchell would be a part. He's
based
saying,
on the statements of.
It's him saying the parents told me this. The parents could dispute that. That's going to come down the line, right? They're going to be able to seat the parents. I will say this, putting together context clues. If the state had it on 100% certainty that Matt Robinson and Amber Robinson said it, a 5-day preliminary hearing would be a good time to say we have enough evidence. And I can tell you why Matt Robinson made this statement. And here is his statement that he said. That would have been a good time to present that evidence.
That would also be a good time for the defense to say that's just totally fabricated.
No, it's not the wrong time.
Why couldn't they?
That is completely the wrong time.
Why couldn't they?
Because what they're doing is they already said they didn't receive discovery. They literally can't. They literally can't because they can't. They did not.
You're saying that they didn't receive that information?
No, they just received the text messages. But in order to...
That's not the text messages.
The probative information.
Yeah, we're talking about the information that we just reviewed. That's not the text messages.
They never presented it. The state never put it on.
Thanks, glory to God. Appreciate the super chat. Only one statement was used in the preliminary does not mean one statement was given. Literally an argument from silence. Yeah, it's an argument for silence, and it's an argument from some source she claims to have that does not disprove that these parents were involved in turning in their own son and not gone out of their way to correct the record if they didn't turn in their own son.
Yeah, they didn't. The defense could easily still have presented this. Yeah,
no,
they could have said they're they're not allowed to.
No, in a preliminary hearing, the defense is engaging with whatever evidence the state decides to put on. They did not put this on as evidence. Brian Davis was up there,
so they're not allowed to present anything.
They're responding to the state's evidence.
Are they allowed to present anything?
They are allowed to say,
like, if there was a conspiracy that they could prove right then and there, would they present that in one of these hearings?
No, it wouldn't be the right time for that.
I disagree. I think that they not only could do it, but they would do it. Right. In fact, when I talked in depth with my attorney, they said that's exactly, if you had actual evidence that there was fabrications by the feds, that's exactly when you would introduce that.
So when in the document that they filed yesterday or a couple of days ago, the appropriate, like what you're doing at this stage of the hearing is the state is saying we have enough evidence that we think this needs to go forward for the trial. Hence the reason that there's this extraordinary, we allow hearsay because it doesn't really need to be perfect. It can be enough that we feel like we can move forward, right? And okay, I disagree with that in general when somebody's rotting in prison, but whatever. The next phase is for them to meet in court and for the defense to essentially present an argument to the state that says, we find this filing to be defective in and of itself. We don't even have to defend ourselves because you, the state, have enough, you know what the laws are on the books, and this filing is defective and you should get rid of these charges because they don't make sense based on what you can decide based on a law in the books. So that's why they then file the dismissal, right? So in the dismissal, what they're doing is they are engaging, and this is what was widely misinterpreted.
Well, yeah, they're engaging as though, as it's a hypothetical. If this is hypothetically true, then
so they're saying all of these charges.
I'm not disputing any of that.
So that's what you're asking. Why you're saying, could they just
what I'm asking specifically is like, who could shut parents up who are like, no way, there's no possible, this never happened, this is ridiculous. They would be shouting it on CNN. They would be shouting it from the rooftops. They would be losing their minds. And you're like, nope, the gag order would be enough to keep them quiet. Not enough for them to talk to your source, but enough to keep them quiet. I think that's quite ridiculous. But I'll even concede this whole point to you. Let's just say maybe this was misconstrued, right? If there's a little bit of reason to doubt it because we're still waiting for the evidence for trial. If that's the case, then why not take the same standard for the evidence that you present? You're just waiting for trial.
Well, you didn't do that.
Wait a second.
We're here.
Wait a second. I just want to make sure that I got this right. That's your argument to me, right?
My argument to you is what?
Your argument to me is that, hey, wait a second, Andrew, there's not enough here that convinces me, right?
Well, that's actually my rebuttal to you, is that you are saying, why are people engaging in what you term to be conspiracy theories?
No.
I term it to be thinking. They're just thinking because they're recognizing there are a lot of holes in these stories and that this is not strong evidence, right? This is the reason they're doing it. I'm explaining to you, this is the reason that they're doing it. I'm addressing what you view to be overwhelming evidence. And by the way, I want to be clear.
That which convinces me.
But thus far, every point that you've brought up, every point that you've brought up, did you feel like this is beyond a reasonable doubt? I mean, you realize
remember what I said in my opening.
Going to be.
It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's just what I find convincing is what I find overwhelming.
So why are you so upset when people say they don't find it convincing?
If that was the limitation of the claims that you made, if it was just, wait a second, there's a little bit of problems. There's some problems in this case that I have questions for that I want answers to. Nobody have a problem, actually. At least of all me. I would be the least likely person to have an issue with you, any of your fans, anybody saying. In fact, I've had tons of Discord calls about this. My position's always been clear. Of course, conspiracies exist. Some of them have way better evidence than others, but I've seen them myself. I know conspiracy. In fact, the federal government has hundreds of thousands of laws about conspiracies. They see them everywhere. We both know this, right? That's never what the problem is. The problem is when you make claims outside of, well, wait a second.
I couldn't find anything about a gag order on the parents that they couldn't speak about their son not being the person that they identified and encouraged to turn it. I couldn't find anything about a gag order on that. So I'm not sure why that's not being fact checked, unless I Googled it wrong, but I couldn't see anything about a gag order.
I'm just questioning evidence here. I'm just questioning what the state's case is here. I'm just asking questions. It's when you make claims outside of that, where you claim that there's good evidence or good standards you should believe because, and then it turns out that it's all nonsense or it's wackadoo stuff or it makes no sense. And when we have a chance to cross-examine your evidence that you've presented, I'm going to show a lot of that. A lot of this conjecture that's based on literally nothing, that leads from no inferences whatsoever. Like you couldn't even infer it logically. That's the problem. The problem has never been whether or not you just said, there's not enough in this case so far until we get to the trial. I remain unconvinced. I'm sure there's tons of people who remain unconvinced yet until we get to the trial. I think that's fine. I think it's fine. There's people who are convinced too. That's never been my problem. My problem is the claims which are external to that.
Okay. I'm not sure I really care if you have a problem with what I think in my own spare time. I don't understand this lecture that you just gave. But beyond that, what I'm saying is that the state is allowed to use. This is what my problem is. You guys are not like, you guys think while it's illegal. You can. You are allowed to do that. So, but anyway, going back to you saying I wouldn't have a problem. I think I just demonstrated pretty thoroughly that what you claim that you have a problem with is exactly what the state is engaged in at this stage. So it just doesn't make sense.
That's not the case. In fact,
so if people look and they say, I'm looking at the gun and I see, and I'm inferring this, and someone else says, I'm looking at the gun evidence and I'm inferring that, they're both doing the exact same thing.
They're not.
You're just saying, I want to do it for the state.
That's propositionally false.
That is not propositionally false. I'll
explain exactly how. It is the case that every proposition is going to have a true or false conclusion, period. That's just logic, right? It's the law of excluded middle. All propositions are going to be true or they're going to be false. When we're making inferences, we're making inferences based on propositions. We can actually come to true conclusions with false premises inside of a proposition. In fact, what we're talking about here is not whether or not you feel that you're convinced by this evidence.
But you felt like you were convinced.
Right? Sure. But here's the thing. When you ask me my reason, Andrew, why are you convinced by this? I can give you my reasons why I'm convinced by it, why it seems reasonable and rational to me to be convinced. You could even say, but Andrew, I'm just not convinced by it. If that was the limitation of your claims, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. That's why I wanted to have the conversation, in fact, was so that we could move into your actual claims that you've made, which transcend the idea of I'm just asking questions.
Before we get into that, your team has one thing they want to show before you go into that. So if you want to pull that up, this is the prosecution filing showing defense had full discovery by April 1st.
Oof.
They did not. That's not true.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
To date, the state's prosecutors have disclosed all evidence that is presently and reasonably available to them as required under Rule 16, Utah R Criminal, to be more precise, as of April 1st.
Yeah, that was not 100%. That's why they're caging that by saying what's reasonable. There was entire, and we can pull this up. Like we should now play the Kathy Nestor clip because that's from there. So, and they were basically saying you don't need it at this stage, meaning it's not reasonable that you're asking for this when we're going into a hearing that's just going to be based on hearsay and stuff, things of that nature. But of course, by the time a trial comes, you're going to get all the discovery documents.
Show cause.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's what they're saying.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. So that's
I'm even fine with it.
Yeah, we all know. And then, by the way, just now that the hearing is over, and you can also fact check this, they now at the end of the preliminary hearing dropped like an insane amount of the discovery stuff they gave to them like the week after. You guys can give me the exact amount. I don't want to say because I don't know my I don't remember how much it was. It was an absurd amount of stuff that they gave to them right after the preliminary hearing that they had been asking for, because that was one of the things that I kept saying on my show is as we were watching that preliminary of the preliminary, why not just give them the stuff now so they can engage in these arguments? Because I feel like you, it's like, I want to hear what they have to say about the text messages. Why can't you just give them what they're asking for so that they can actually engage you? And it didn't happen. So, but the judge ruled that it wasn't necessary at this stage. And that was the whole point of that
because it's
preliminary
a show
to the preliminary. Yeah.
Would you like to play the Kathy video?
Well, he's saying he's not disagreeing, so I don't think we need
There's
to.
no point there.
There's no
Okay.
disagreement
All right.
that she said that.
Yeah.
So so I guess the disagreements
also-
now would move into the evidences that you have stated on the record, which transcend elements of reason.
Why are we
in regards
having
to this
a
case.
transcendental conversation now? Because I mean,
Because they're all related to this
your
case.
entire thing was about looking at the evidence, which never made sense to me, again, because all of the evidence that you felt to be overwhelming was hearsay. That was bizarre to me.
You told me that I could take as much time as I wanted to question you on
No,
these
but
things.
I'm just asking you just to lay the groundwork of what you're saying is
Because you've made
problematic, that
many,
you
many
decide to
claims.
trip
Is she running?
into
I'll
something
explain.
else. And I do still want to hold you for going through, because we've discussed the gun, we've discussed your
and you can hold me to those things, but I would like to get into the
and
things
we
that
should
you've
discuss
said.
the screwdriver as
So,
well.
and I'll explain exactly what the groundwork is.
Mhm.
When you make claims which pass the idea of I'm just asking questions because the state's evidence is not convincing, I think you have to answer for those claims because they are in regards to this case. You're saying, I have a claim. It is in regards to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which is what we're talking about, not just the case of Charlie Kirk, his assassination. You should have to answer for the claims that you've made in regards to the assassination itself.
Yep.
You should. Yeah, agreed. So if that's the case, then I would like to finally dive into some of that evidence and dive into it.
Well, just to be clear, and I'm happy to have you talk about, like I said publicly, you want to engage in some conspiracies, but I said I want to make sure that we get to the substance of our debate. The substance of our debate
is the major
is me
substance.
demonstrating that all of the quote unquote evidence that you feel that you have, which demonstrates that Tyler Robinson shot Charlie Kirk.
You don't find convincing. I get it.
It's been invalidated by the testimony that we saw, and your answer for when I explained to you that he had the most degraded prints was, I don't know. Okay, well there lies my ability to process that.
It's just fine for you to not be convinced up to this point. All of your viewers, everybody watching. You're conceding. Nobody's giving a dispute that if all your claims ever were just up to now, the evidence that the state's given, I'm just kind of not convinced. That is not what's been happening. Right. What's actually been happening
made another
is that you've made tons of claims in regards to this case and in regards to the Kirk assassination, which are far above and beyond, I just doubt, the state's theory.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, sure. I do doubt the state's theory. I also am welcome to say what I think. If you want to move into opinions, if you want to talk about Erica Kirk, if you want to talk about Turning Point USA,
I'd like to talk about all
and
of
get into it. I'm totally happy to do that. But I just want to say that, I do not feel, because I've said what's important to me is that we exhaust this topic first of our actual debate claims. I do not feel that you sufficiently have argued that the evidence is overwhelming.
Sorry, question for you.
But I am sorry you feel that way.
What evidence do you need to see for you to say Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk?
That's a great question. So I actually expected in this preliminary hearing, the inverse of what he was saying is true, right? So this is now the time the state is putting on their evidence. That's the purpose of this hearing.
Okay.
Right. The state is.
Guys, I got bad news. I gotta go. I'm supposed to do a podcast for somebody here, and I gotta run. I'm supposed to be there in 4 minutes. I'm running late, but this is still going on in about an hour or so. I will be back. Okay, I will be back. Go get yourself some.
All right, so this one is gonna end, and I'll be back too. We're gonna do part 2 in about, let's say, 30 minutes or less. I'll be back.